This past weekend, I brought Jt Torres out to my gym kind of as an early birthday present. My birthday's coming up on Friday the 13th, March the 13th. And so I brought him out for me and the students to train with and have a seminar, and everything was really good. The seminar was amazing. Training with him was really good, and he's an incredibly nice dude. During the rolls that I had with him, because on Friday, he and I just basically had I don't say private because my students were watching right there, but he and I just had a rolling session for about 30 minutes. We got 3 rounds in. And, during the roll, I couldn't get much going. I got a couple, I muscled up like some stuff, every now and then, and I was able to defend okay. But as far as me being in like the offensive spot where I had him in trouble, that really never happened. And, again, I am sharing this with you guys because a lot of you guys send me messages. You've been training for 3 years, 6 months, or 3 years. It's 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years, right? Whatever. You're in that early phase of jiu-jitsu from white to purple. And a lot of you guys will send me messages where someone cleans your clock, someone beats you, you're not able to deal with them, and you get disheartened. You feel like you suck. You feel like you might want to quit. You start to lose your resolve. And this is something that's really important because when JT and I were talking, even on the podcast, this is something that JT has a mindset of, and it's something that I have as well, which is when you lose, you have to be insulated from any of that negative crap that makes you think that you're supposed to not do something or to make you give up. For instance, when I first started training, I spent the first 6 months or so just getting my face smashed over and over and over again, just like most of us do, right? But I was never disheartened by that. I was never like, man, I suck at this. I was always kind of motivated by it because I was feeling this skill. This thing existed, right? And these guys are all men, so I can get this. They're men like me, but I felt this thing, and I was like, I want this power. I want this ability to have that these guys have. And so it motivated me to work harder. When I would go to tournaments and I would put my heart and soul into the training, and then I would go out there and I would lose. Again, it didn't feel good. For you guys that say lose, you don't lose, you learn. I mean, well, you learn, but you do lose, and losing doesn't feel good, and it's not supposed to. And, I would leave those competitions motivated, one, by the feeling of that loss to go drive and go push myself forward, but also by the lessons that I would learn from the match. Because I'm like, okay, someone presented something to my game that I wasn't used to, and they were able to, take advantage of it. I want that. And it's the same thing with JT when we were on the podcast, and he was talking about the different difficulties that he had with rolling or competing and talking about the same thing. And so when you guys are in especially your early phase of training, your first few years, you have to have that mindset, right? Because there's two kind of responses that most people have. Some people, when they lose, they get really disheartened. They have these big expectations, and then when they didn't meet those expectations, they putter out. They lose their heart for the training. But then you have other people. And when they run into someone that just completely annihilates them or beats them, or, they don't have an option for or an answer for, they're not disheartened by it. They don't get demotivated. They get motivated from it because they know that, look, this thing out here, this exists. And yes, I didn't have it today, but if I work my butt off and I work towards this, maybe I can have a little bit of this, right? And for me, when I was rolling with JT this weekend, again, I put in 20 years of grappling. 20 years is when I started, 20 years ago, I started wrestling in high school, and I got into jiu-jitsu, I guess, at this point, almost 17 years ago. And so when I've been doing this for a long time, I got beaten by a guy, right? I'm good. I'm not bad at jiu-jitsu, but I'm not that good. And on that level, and again, it would be easy for me to go, oh man, I suck really bad, blah, blah, blah. I've put 20 years and, what have I got to show for it? But at the same time, for me, I'm motivated because I'm like, man, that was some good stuff. I felt him use the things that he was doing to me that I didn't have an answer for because I'm not familiar with those positions, and it completely threw me out of whack. And so instead of being demotivated by it, I'm friggin' motivated by it. I'm going to go into the gym and I'm going to go train. I'm going to drill this stuff and I'm going to figure it out because I'm not going to be on that level, I don't think, right? I'm not going to be on JT's level. He's on another level, but I can have a little bit of it. I can have a little bit of that for myself, and that's what I'm going to do. And so again, for you guys that are in your first, several years of training, I would encourage you guys to have that mindset. When you get beaten, don't get disheartened by it. Keep pushing. And sort of as an aside for coaches and black belts and people like that, when I was rolling with JT, I was rolling in front of my students. When I had Muhammad last year I was rolling in front of my students. When I had Bernardo Faria out a few years ago, I was rolling in front of my students, getting beaten by these dudes. I think it's important for us as coaches to continually challenge ourselves because it can be very easy to insulate yourself with your students or insulate yourself. And especially if you get really good, it's very easy to insulate yourself with people that really can't give you the business, that can't remind you of what it's like to be that person who doesn't have an answer. And I think it's important. That's one of the reasons why I do like rolling with guys like JT or Muhammad or Bernardo and some of these guys where I just don't have an answer for. I can't even hang with them really, right? Because I want to feel that, and I want to ground myself down to reality. Because, when people come into the gym, that's really what this does. It brings reality to it, because a lot of people come into the gym and they think they can fight, or they think they can do this stuff, and then they come in and they realize that they can't, and it brings reality into them. And so again, for us as coaches, I think everybody's heard of a coach or seen a coach or experienced a coach who didn't want to roll with the tough guys, refused to compete even though they were physically capable and they used to compete, or, whatever, like basically no longer challenges themselves, and you see it. And I think that kind of goes against what this whole thing's supposed to be about. Now, there is an age thing, because obviously as you get older, you're not going to be able to put yourself in those situations as much. But when you're younger and you're able to, I think you should continually challenge yourself. One, because it's good for your students to see that you're still out there doing it, that you're still leading by example. I think that's very important, because, words are cheap. Actions are much more powerful. But also because, again, it helps you connect with that feeling of what it was like to be that person. And again, for me, I find that motivating. So, but I think it's important for coaches to do that as well, to continually challenge themselves and let the students see. So anyway, that was kind of a takeaway for some of you guys that are newer. Have that response to losing. And if you guys do, check out the podcast coming up that I did with JT, and Eugene and I did with JT, because when you listen to that, he'll talk about his story, and he'll talk about some of these lessons here that are really, really useful, I think, for young grapplers getting into it with the challenges and things like that he experienced. So guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll talk to you next time.